A popular beverage is being turned into a lethal brew in Vietnam in a bid to knock out one of the fruit industry's fiercest enemies. Brewery waste laced with poison is proving an effective weapon in the fight against fruit flies. And this beer bait was first developed by Australian scientists in the laboratories of a Queensland university.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning at the Tam Binh Agricultural Market, one of the busiest times at this fruit and vegetable wholesale hub in Ho Chi Minh City. While a few manage to somehow sneak in a kip amid the chaos, most have their hands full as truckloads of freshly picked produce arrive to be tested and traded in a matter of hours. And the frantic pace is set to intensify with the fruit industry flowering in Vietnam.
The area has increased a lot in the last few years, and the export value also increased. Every year we increase by 30 million US dollar, and last year we export more than 330 million US dollar for fruit tree.
Among the big movers in the export market is dragon fruit. It's mainly grown in the Thanh Giang province in the Mekong River Delta. Traditionally a rice-growing region in southern Vietnam.
Some of them try to grow dragon fruit, and it shows that the benefit is very high compared to rice. So a lot of farmers in this area, transfer from rice to dragon fruit, and the benefit is around 4 to 5 times compared to rice.
Nguyen Van Quang made the switch to the striking fleshy fruit 20 years ago, a gamble that has paid off for the grandfather of 3.
This kind of fruit has improved my family's income. As you can see, I have a pretty good house and a good lifestyle, and that's all from the dragon fruit farm.
But the transition hasn't been without its troubles. The farmers' profits were initially eaten away by a pest familiar to many Australians, the fruit fly.
You can see the damage the fruit fly make here. It gets its larvae inside, which will develop into worms and damage the whole fruit. Fruit flies can damage more than 40% of our orchard if we don't use control methods. They cause big losses to farmers like us.
There are around 30 known fruit fly species in Vietnam, and 9 are considered pests, leaving a trail of destruction across orchards.
Fruit flies sometimes infected 100% of fruit, infected with fruit fly. Sometimes 15%, but sometimes 100% if you don't give enough care.
Initially, growers tried to protect their investment from an insect invasion by picking fruit before it was ripe or spraying their entire orchard with a chemical insecticide.
So they'd spray all the tree and all the crop, including on the fruit. So they used a lot of spray, so it's dangerous to farmers, but also dangerous to the consumers because the chemical residue would end up on the fruit.
Enter Dr. Dick Drew from Griffith University, who spoke to the ABC back in 2002 about the fruit fly challenge.
We believe in Australia, fruit flies cost us at least $300 million per annum. In the region of Southeast Asia to the Pacific, it would run into billions.
Obsessed with finding a solution, Dick has spent 15 years searching for a bait, something irresistible to fruit flies alone, a substance that could be laced with a poisonous insecticide. He found that fruit flies love protein, so he experimented with a yeast and protein-rich gel made from brewery waste. That experiment has progressed to a commercial product in Vietnam. On the main floor of this local brewery, it's business as usual, with 40,000 cans of beer filled every hour.
in a separate room, work on another brew with a real knockout punch is underway, albeit at a slower pace. This is Bug Bait Central. Waste yeast from the factory is first treated with heat and enzymes to remove the alcohol. The leftover protein mixture is combined with a poison.
The protein bait is a kind of food, for fruit fly, food. So the fruit fly come to get its food, and in that kind of protein bait, we put some small, very small amount of insecticide, and because of that, the fruit fly eat the protein and die.
While the commercial product is now owned by Vietnam's Southern Fruit Research Institute and a local pesticide company, the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research funded the development phase.
The yeast was pretty clearly identified as a strong attractant for fruit fly. But what was tricky was determining the right amount of yeast and how to apply it and when throughout the fruiting cycle it needed the application. And that's really where a lot of the research was.
The application is one of the key selling points. After diluting the bait with water, farmers only spray a small spot on each tree and not the fruit. So there's less impact on the environment and fruit, and some significant savings when it comes to labour.
This kind of bait is very easy to use, and I can also save time. For example, in 30 minutes I can spray this whole orchard, 5,000 square metres. If I use a normal chemical, it takes about 4 to 6 hours.
Of course, there's a fee to achieving a fly-free zone. Since its commercial release, the price of the protein bait has doubled. But Mr Kwong says so has the value of his fruit.
The yield and quality of our dragon fruit are pretty high. For example, before we used the bait, we only got 5,000 dong per kilo, but now we can get 10,000 dong, which is similar to other good quality fruit.
There's a particular case in here where before the fruit fly control was 95% damage and after it was only 5%. But that was at the worst case where there was a high infestation of fruit flies. But on average, farmers who have suffered 50% damage beforehand may be now getting around 15% damage.
In a country where 70% of people make a living from agriculture and the average income is about $1,200 a year, Australia's ambassador to Vietnam says this is a research project that has had some very real results in alleviating poverty.
The project there has had good support for extension and good take-up by farmers. Where projects, I think, have been less successful is where, for example, the local authorities, the local agricultural authorities or central authorities haven't funded the extension and therefore as a result of that, practical results of the projects haven't necessarily come down to the field level.
Most of the research work has focused on Barbados cherries. They've been grown around here for more than 50 years, and until recently it wasn't unusual to see entire orchards destroyed by fruit flies. But just like with dragon fruit, the bait is helping keep the bugs at bay. Chow Ti Tue grows rice and Barbados cherries in the Mekong Delta and is the chairwoman of the local agricultural cooperative. Like many farmers, she initially coated her shrubs with chemicals, but then she gave the beer bait a bash with mixed results.
From 2003 to 2005, we used the protein spray, but only on some orchards and not in a large area, and it didn't work well. From 2005 to 2009, the results were really good because the whole district used the protein bait. Farmers don't worry about fruit flies anymore.
The manufacturer concedes growers need to work together for the bait to be effective.
The problem in Vietnam, is one farm using. If his neighbor doesn't use, then later on, the fruit fly again come to his farm. So for this, it should be applied, in large scale, in terms of, like say, cooperative farm or group farmer, But if one applies, it will be less useful.
Cooperation is certainly paying off at this collection house, where farmers come to sell the tropical American fruit. While the cherry, which is rich in vitamin C and popular in Japan, doesn't fetch as much as dragon fruit, returns have doubled.
When we used chemicals, we got a very low price, only 1,500 to 2,000 dong per kilo. The exporting company didn't buy from us because it said it couldn't sell the cherries as they were infected with pesticide residue. When we used the protein bait, the exporting company paid a very good price. In the last 2 years, we've received about 3,500 dong per kilo, and at the moment it's 3,700 dong per kilo.
For this grower, it means she has more money to buy equipment for the farm and look after her mother. For Vietnam's fruit industry, it means greater access to overseas markets.
4 years ago, at export of fruit, but I don't think we can export to US and Japan. But we could do that in 2008 to US and 2009 to Japan. So what I think in the near future, maybe 2 years or so, we can export to Australia.
I think it's probably still some way off yet. We still probably need to do more work on quality control and other work on Vietnam's fruit. But I think in due course that is a possibility. Vietnam's already a significant import market for Australian beef and other Australian products. So I think that the Vietnamese are naturally looking for some reciprocation in trade.
Things aren't just looking up in the Mekong Delta. A second beer bait factory in the country's north is providing some soft fruit growers with an extra barrier against the bugs.